Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Don Dada X, man, coming to you with my very first video, and we are getting into game one of the NBA season of the Knicks and Celtics. And I won't deride these C's too much, man, but y'all know, and we all know, Jaylen Brown and JT led the Celtics to banner 18, aka another NBA championship, to add to the Celtics tally. So this was not only the Celtics reunite, but this was a highly anticipated matchup between the reigning champs and honestly what people see as the number one contender coming out of the East, New York Knicks. And on paper, the Knicks do look like the number one contenders on paper, because you got Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns. So this was a highly anticipated matchup that just didn't live up to the hype. So let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about is Jason Tatum. Let me say it again. Jason Tatum. Man, talk about a man on a mission. Led the Celtics in points, rebounds, assists, field goals made in the finals, and still didn't get finals MVP. And also was hit with numerous DNPs in the USA's route to gold. Literally the summer of him winning the NBA championship. It's insane. But man, talk about a man that gets hated on for literally doing his job. But as y'all saw last night, that literally just motivated JT to get busy. JT started off the first quarter scorching from deep with 15 points in the first quarter, leading the Celtics to a comfortable lead to start the second quarter. But it didn't just end with that. The Celtics literally could not miss. They were one shy of a franchise record for most three-pointers made in a quarter heading into the second quarter. I don't want to say you should expect this volume of threes or for the Celtics to be this hot, but they did lead the league in three-pointers made and three-pointers attempted last season. So from the looks of it, they have the potential to do that again. The three-point shooting literally had the Celtics up 20 going into the second quarter. And that is literally insane. That's crazy. I get the Celtics are the reigning champions, but everybody has the Knicks being those number one contenders, to potentially knock the Celtics off of that Eastern Conference pedestal. And last night, that just wasn't the case. Celtics offense was too prolific with high ball screens, cuts, mismatched post-ups, basically forcing the Knicks to, test their new identity and their new additions to help defense and rotations. And these are all aspects of defense that a newly formed team like the Knicks just aren't caught up to speed yet to handle. And that's no knock on Tibbs and the Knicks, but that's just a knock on, just newly formed teams just aren't usually, caught up to speed and are fit game one of the season to, have the rotations and their help defenses down to a T, because it's game one, understandably. And man, did the Celtics exploit that. The Celtics didn't just stop in the first half with their barrage of threes, y'all. The Celtics ended up tying an NBA record for most threes in a game with 29. 29 threes. An NBA record, y'all. And I get that this is a historical thing, but this isn't just like an out-of-body performance from the Celtics. Like I said before, they led the NBA last season in three-point attempts, three-point shooting, three-pointers made, the whole nine. They were a dominant three-point shooting team last year. So Thibs and the Knicks should have knew. They should have knew that the Celtics were going to get up a lot of threes tonight. There should have been bodies to bodies on the perimeter. There should have been hands to faces when shots were going up. But the Knicks just weren't prepared. And like I said, they're a newly formed team. This is game one. So I completely understand why their defense and their help defense and their rotations just weren't up to speed. But you're playing the reigning champs. And you have 2 out of maybe the top 10 on-ball defenders on your team. So you got to at least show some resistance. I mean, damn. But JT easily was the best player in the NBA last night, leading the Celtics charge with 37 points, 10 assists, 8 for 11 from threes. and 77% from the field. He also added a block and a steal to, to show some defense. But Finals MVP Jaylen Brown also chipped in with 23 points, 5 threes, first team all defense. Derek White was a march from deep, 6 threes, 24 points. So this was just all around a hands down dominant performance from the Celtics last night. Now let's get into the Knicks. Man, the first thing I want to talk about is the ice cold shooting. Ice, baby. Oh my goodness. The Knicks couldn't buy a shot in the first quarter or the second quarter. Despite them shooting 57% in the first half, they still shot 28% from three. And if you watched the game, you saw that the Knicks couldn't knock down a three in a pool-sized net if they wanted to. Other than Deuce McBride coming out hot in the first half, the offense just looked stagnant. If the Jalen Brunson pick and roll or the pick and pop or whatever they were running with Jalen Brunson, the high ball screen, if that didn't work and Jalen Brunson didn't get anything and that kick out shot was not open, they had nothing. And I think part of this is because they start Josh Hart. And Josh Hart isn't a consistently knockdown shooter, so it's easy for, the power forwards and the centers to sort of clog the paint to bother those Jalen Brunson floaters or those mid-range pull-ups that are his bread and butter. And if you're going to have a player who can't consistently stretch the floor, it's best you make sure they aren't undersized. So the good of them being able to, anchor the paint and cause ruckus on defense outweighs the bad of them being undersized and unable to stretch the floor consistently. Josh Hart is better off coming off the bench, in my opinion, because you already have Cat stretching the floor in the first unit. So why not just have, an athletic size 5 or 4 like Jericho Sims or Precious Ichiwa to do the same things Josh Hart does, but with more defensive stain to guard bigs and be in that dunker spot that ultimately Josh Hart faded into in the second half because he couldn't consistently knock down the three ball, and he couldn't consistently stretch the floor. Now on to the Knicks' new additions. Let's start off with Mikal Bridges. Mikal was awful in his Knicks debut. He was awful. And if you watch the preseason, you know that Mikal shot 2 for 19 from three-point range all preseason due to a change in his jump shot. So I really wasn't surprised when he started off the first half 0 for 5 with a donut in the points column. But man, do the Knicks need him to give them something. It literally looked like it hurt every time he shot the ball last night. He didn't get his first bucket until 9 minutes into the third quarter, which is abysmal. That is abysmal for a guy they sacrificed so much for. And I get he finished with 16 points and 50% plus shooting. But watching the game, he didn't look comfortable in that Knicks offense. And I get it's his first game of the season, so we could cut him some slack, right, y'all? But I don't know, man. For a guy that the Knicks gave up 5 first-round picks for, that just wasn't right. That just wasn't cutting it last night, man. That just, like, the defense wasn't there. His shooting wasn't there. He didn't look comfortable in the offense. But again, it's game 1, y'all, so I'm not going to overreact. But those corner threes that put him on the map with the Suns and that had him, averaging as much as he did with the Nets, and what made him just, this hot commodity, to go after, he wasn't doing that. And that's partially because he changed his jump shot, in my opinion. But it's the first game of the season, like I said, and your boy's not going to do too much. One thing that did alarm me was getting Cat easy buckets. Other than ISO sets, Cat was never really involved in any P and pop sets with Jalen Brunson or even any P and roll sets. But all of his shots were buckets that he had to get out of the mud, it felt like. As you can see, these are all tough jumpers and possessions where Cat has to go to work on his own. And I honestly feel like, yes, he's that type of player that can get his own shot. But at the same time, you can have one. You have one of the best scoring point guards in the league. So why not spam a pick and pop with Cat and Brunson, with the focus on getting Cat the rock? But because we know JB is going to get his, But what's going to push the Knicks over that edge is Cat being that clear-cut number 2 scorer that, can stretch the floor and can get open spot-up jumpers for OG and Mikal Bridges due to his lethal scoring ability. Cat is one of those players that can give it to you on the inside, can give it to you on the outside, can even give it to you in the mid-range with his fades and his hook shots. Cat is a 3-level scorer that I feel like the Knicks were missing in their playoff run, hence Julius Randle. But even though Cat is a more prolific scorer than Julius Randle, of course, the Knicks were still missing that number 2 guy that, can get their buckets. And even though Cat was getting those buckets here and there last night, they were hard buckets that I feel like could be converted into more easier buckets if you just utilize the 1-2 man game of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. It's easy, I feel like. But, with a newly formed squad, it's easier said than done. But as the season progresses, that is something that I really want to see. And that is something that I feel like can push the Knicks over that edge to getting to the finals. Now, as y'all know, the Celtics came out victorious on NBA Day 1, 132-109 over the New York Knicks on the ring night. Now, yesterday was definitely one of those matchups that people could get ahead of themselves with. So it's important to know that it was only the first game of this season, y'all. We still have 81 games to go. So NBA fans, if your team won last night, congrats. Don't overreact. If your team lost last night, don't overreact. It's only the first game of the season. But that's all I got, folks. I'm Don Dada X. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for my next video and my next analysis. Thanks, y'all. Peace.